The year's 1999. The place is Toys R Us. A 7-year-old child approaches a video game demo station, which houses a muscle-bound totem of the Y2K era. A machine which would bind your mind within its spellcraft. The child picks up the machine's calamitously designed controller, and is granted brief access to something never before experienced.
Sweet. Attitude.
Come on, you big drip! Where you going?
Drama.
Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah!
Shredding guitar riffs that go so hard, like the baddest shit you ever heard.
The fifth console generation. Who could forget these timeless consoles that define modern gaming as we know... Wait, who the f*** is this guy? Oh, Sega Saturn, right. Anyway, everybody was trying to figure out their identities in a 3D world. Nintendo was making rock-solid games that were laying the foundation for a future of 3D gaming. Mario 64 was the plumber's first trip into the third dimension, and it was a masterclass in movement. Sony was just hopping into the fray with the PlayStation and winning hearts with its impressive and diverse roster of gems, and wooing over developers of legacy Japanese series that were making games that felt like they were on the same level as movies for the first time. Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy VII found their home on this beast, and that's just the ittiest bittiest tip of the iceberg. And Sega was doing very Sega-type stuff at the time. If you don't know much about the legacy of Sega as a business, here's a good depiction of how they were approaching their strategy at the time.
Just need you to name an animal.
Yeah.
That we eat but doesn't eat us.
Doesn't eat us, that's easy. A dragon!
And without getting too in the weeds here,
$2.99.
Sega dropped the Sega Saturn in '95, which technically had a 3D Sonic spin-off and one 3D Sonic menu, but none of these were the proper and definitive Sonic in 3D experience. Sonic is about going fast, and these guys weren't even breaking the speed limit, let alone the sound barrier. So Sega released a 3D console with no mainline entries from their biggest franchise. If that sounds like a terrible idea to you, that's because it is. This brings us to the release of the Sega Dreamcast in 1999. And again, without getting too in the weeds, Sega did their thing again.
A dragon!
And long story short, the Dreamcast failed and led Sega to never develop consoles again. But that doesn't mean it didn't show up and show out for the party. No, for those among us who were society's maverick thinkers, we knew we had something special right here. The slick and polished acrobatics of Mario 64 felt prim and proper compared to the adrenaline-pumping speed of Sonic Adventure. Sonic would go so fast it felt like the game couldn't even keep up. And while Mario wouldn't dare open his mouth, Sonic and crew were more than happy to dish out rad one-liners with mouth animations that would make a snake's unhinged jaw jealous. If Mario 64 was about perfecting one thing, the jump, and finding endless uses for that one thing, Sonic Adventure was about maximalism to the max. Forget playing it safe, Sonic Team was packing everything the third dimension had to offer into this disc. And that's very indicative of the culture of 1999. It was all about maximalism, getting extreme, and Sonic Adventure really opened the door for all these other games to just go buck wild. Everything was about extreme, and this game had plenty of extreme to offer. It was extremely packed with content for a game at the time. We're talking 6 playable characters, all with different playstyles, ranging from classic Sonic run-fast levels, racing as Tails, scavenger hunting with Knuckles, Nemesis-style quasi-horror segments with Amy, mech-shooting mayhem with E102, and fishing with Big the Cat. The thing about the late 90s and the early 2000s was fishing was like, I don't know, very cool for video games at the time. Lots of stuff had to do with fish. I don't know. Sega had a fishing rod controller. I mean, we were just getting so extreme with everything, including fishing. This game is packing every element of extreme culture into it, right? It said, here's the Sonic stuff that you know and love. Here's Knuckles being more Knuckles than you could ever want. Here's a fishing section. Here's a mech section, right? You need those things because it's 1999. So this amount of gameplay variety was pretty unheard of at the time. This game promised adventure and gave us that and more, because they also threw in a robust virtual pet garden in the Chow Garden, which is also 1999 as hell. This thing was basically a Tamagotchi, but like next level, to the extreme. You could even take this thing on the Dreamcast memory card, which again, we're in the 90s, we're getting extreme. This thing was also a little Game Boy type doohickey. So you could take your Chow on the go, Tamagotchi style. Guys, I'm telling you, this game is 1999 on a disc. And if you're looking at this game through the lens of today without playing this game when it originally came out, it might be hard to understand why this game is so loved today. But I want to go through this game with you and view it through the lens of someone who played it the year of its release, and hopefully I can give you an idea of just what makes this game so special to us decrepit old 90s kids.
The demo kiosk experience of '99.
Back in the pre-internet days, the main method of learning about a new game was word of mouth or a sick gaming magazine, like GamePro, rest in peace. And then getting into a game store and seeing what was on offer at those sweet, sweet demo kiosks. An icon of an ancient time. The demo kiosk of a game store was where you would spend your time while your parents did something boring at the mall. And these towers of power were glorious fortune tellers, guiding us towards the next great adventure. And the Dreamcast demo kiosk? It knew it needed desperately to get our attention. And they served us sun-drenched sands, crystal blue waters, and spectacle that we couldn't deny. The first level of Sonic Adventure feels like it's designed to grab your attention as you spy its demo kiosk from across a crowded mall. It was specifically this killer whale chase scene that served up that slice of
Extreme.
that we were hungry for in 1999. This scene alone got hammered into our brains as the most action-packed moment we'd seen in a game. Sonic is running towards us, looking like he doesn't give a
Fart.
The boardwalk is getting torn up, sending 2x4 flying. The water is doing maybe not what water does exactly, but it's all part of the spectacle, baby. And once you experienced that sequence in person, you couldn't stop thinking about it until you got your hands on that game. And once you got your hands on that game, you'd spend the ride back home popping the package open, reading the manual, and absorbing all the hyped up goodness that the physical game packages of the 90s had to offer. This is my childhood Dreamcast, and this is my copy of Sonic Adventure that I've had since I was a kid. And I wanted to look at these things with you guys because the physical experience is something that's really cool about the Dreamcast as a console, but also Sonic Adventure. And I want to compare the actual case of Sonic Adventure to like a modern case, because we're going to see there's some big differences between the way these things were marketed in store, since that was the main way of buying games back in 1999. You know, there was obviously no online buying option or digital downloads or anything like that, so you'd be going into a game store, you'd be seeing this case, and you'd be looking at the back of it and everything. But first, let's look at the Dreamcast, because this baby is a 1999 machine right here. The grayscale, they made it like look like a computer, and modern consoles just lack what these old school guys had. The front ports, like everything about this just looks fun. The front ports, we have our 4 controller options, we have the cool spiral logo and all that stuff. It's just a great machine. So yeah, I mean, this console has a distinctly 90s look. Our old computers used to just look like gray boxes, so this thing kind of resembles that, which made this thing kind of feel like a computer in a way that other consoles didn't. But anyway, let's take a look at the actual game. First, let's compare a newer game. Final Fantasy 16, pretty great game, but let's look at the box art, okay? Pretty simple, clean on the cover. Let's look at the back here. The back reads, "Fate is written in fire. Break your bonds, embrace Clive's iconic power, and summon your destiny. Dynamic action RPG combat, immense icon battles, dark fantasy world." I feel like what we get now are cases that are very simple, right? It only says a couple things, 3 screenshots, and very, very generic language underneath those screenshots, right? Dark fantasy world? Okay, like what does that even mean? And if we open the case, there would usually be a game inside, but it's in my PS5 right now. But you can see we get, free demo of Final Fantasy XIV. That's impossible to get your hands on. Warranty information. Nobody wants to read that. And that's it. I mean, we have an alternate cover we can flip in the case, but that's it. Now let's compare that to the Sonic Adventure case. Okay, bam. Right off the bat, I mean, instant, like, graphic design vibes, like, in a big way. So we'll talk about this later in the video, but I feel like this game hit a very cool aesthetic, which is like Frutiger Arrow meets Y2K aesthetic. You know, we can see all the nature motifs on the front, the water, the air, like I think I mentioned before, and Sonic's looking so cool. I mean, there's a lot of debate over modern Sonic, classic Sonic, whatever, but as a kid, like, this is undeniable. You're like, this guy's cool, I want to play this game, right? The typography is amazing for Sonic Adventure. It's got the sunny skies, but it also has that border that's kind of like a little more earthy, and that kind of does hit upon some of the things in the game, but you know, whatever. The cover's great, this automatically hooks you. But let's look at the back, because the back of games used to be like an event. I feel like they really had to sell you on the game when you were in the store, because you're competing against everything. So remember Final Fantasy's very limited typography on the back? Bam! We're maximalists, like we've said before. I think we're gonna say later on, Sonic Adventure is all about the maximalism, baby. Look at how much type is on there. And it's not just type, it's hype. Let's read what it says, because it's trying to get you hyped up to play this game. The back reads, buckle up, and we're talking 5-point harness. Right off the bat, so much attitude. Like, it feels so snarky and cool, but like, it's corny as well, but it's really cool. I love it. Buckle up, and we're talking 5-point harness. Sonic the Hedgehog will propel your Dreamcast into warp speed 3D adventure. Want rings? We've got rings. Want Chaos Emeralds? We've got those too. You want insane graphics, huge levels, puzzles, hidden minigames, multiple playable characters, and more? Oh yeah, we've got it all. Features: 6 playable characters, each with her own skills and abilities. Jaw-dropping 3D graphics with unbelievable detail and speed. Nearly 50 massive levels, bonus rounds, bosses, and minigames. Exclusive A-Life system. Breed and train Chow characters with the VMU and then race them in Sonic Adventure. We've got amazing illustrations of the full cast on here. We've got a couple awesome screenshots of the game. Like, everything about the back of this case makes you want to play this game. It gets me so hyped up. The back of the Final Fantasy case, side by side. Look, I mean, both great games. I mean, I just love the maximalism of the Sonic Adventure case. It's kind of crazy in the best possible way. But let's look inside the case as well, because if you remember, in the Final Fantasy case, there was like nothing in there. We didn't get anything. But oh yeah, my case is totally broken. This is an old. I've had this for a while. Since 1999, I've had this. All right, so we always got a pamphlet, an instruction guide. That was cool. And I will say, actually, with the Sonic Adventure one, it's totally black and white on the inside, which is fine. Like, other ones would have color, which is kind of cool. But we still have all this busy goodness, literally explaining every part of the game, because again, this was the first, 3D adventure for a lot of franchises. So it's kind of errs on the side of over explanation in some ways, like it is literally telling you where everything on the menu is. You could just read the menu, but if you want to really get into the nitty gritty, you gotta get into the manual. And a lot of times manuals like this would have extra story information, especially in the 2D era. You'd get story information a lot in these instructional booklets because they maybe couldn't display the story within the game. There's not even enough memory to make the story actually happen. So, you know, you didn't necessarily need to do that as much with this game, but we still did it. We got explanations for everything in here, you know? Full item lists. I would have assumed you would just pop open the 5-ring item and know that you were going to get 5 rings, but they tell you about it just in case. Maybe you don't know. You know, this is your first 3D game. This is your first time playing Sonic in 3D, so you might forget the rules a little bit. Instructions for all the mini games, you know, even though within the game you're going to get instructions. But you get little extra illustrations. A lot of times as a kid, I would trace a lot of the things in instruction booklets, because you'd have, you know, illustrations of characters and stuff like that. A lot of times stuff that wasn't necessarily anywhere else in the game, or you couldn't see these, you know, full illustrations anywhere else. So yeah, I mean, really, the physical packaging of a game really used to feel more like an event in a lot of ways. You know, in the digital download age, obviously you don't really need the instruction manual in the same way, so, you know, why waste the resources, the paper, the man hours, whatever, the work hours, whatever. That just makes me love this even more. And as I'll mention later in the video, Sega and the 90s had a bit of an obsession with extreme fishing. So, you know, they're going to let you know you can fish in here. You like that the cat campaign? Well, there's more where that came from. So yeah, the physical case, I love. The instruction booklet, I love. I love instruction booklets like this. And the physical version of this game has special meaning to me, you know, my copy, because my aunt gave it to me. She's no longer with us. But when she got it, you know, she's an old school Italian, and back in the days you did not have the internet or whatever, so you'd have, I imagine her going into GameStop and being like, hey, you got the Sonic Adventure, something like that, you know, and that's like kind of really special, because I feel like the older generations at that time like to go into the store. She also bought me the first Fire Emblem game on the Game Boy Advance, so like imagining her going into like a GameStop and being like, I need this Fire Emblem thing, it was like, thank you for doing that. That will always make this copy of the game very special to me. And Sonic Adventure is very special to me in general, so it's awesome that I am making this video. It makes me very happy. So there was definitely some magic in just the physicality of these older games and the packaging and all that. So we're properly hyped up. We read the background. Let's pop the disc in and get this game going.
The menu.
Okay, we gotta vibe out on the menu for a minute before we even get started, because they just don't do it like this anymore. I mean, you get the opening guitar riff right at the beginning, just before we even press start. But like, look at this background as well. We've got the sky meeting the water. Like, it is just, it's beautiful. And what I really love about the menus of this time is that they feel like an event. Everything is over-designed in a way. There's narration on the things that you highlight, expansive extra options, like being able to listen to every sound file in the game. And there's just something about these menus. They always pick the best music, and they have like, and a similar one that I can kind of think of is the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 one. That one and this one have this like watery vibe. It's really cool. I love it. And it I don't know, it just takes me back. Maybe it's just very nostalgic for me, but I really love it. If you couldn't tell, I use the watery kind of motif in my stuff all the time, just because, like, I don't know, it's a relaxing, nostalgic vibe. So yeah, anyway, I could like hang out in this menu for a long time, but let's move on. Okay, this is just we're getting too poetic about this stuff right now. Let's move on to
The gameplay.
As I mentioned before, this was the first proper 3D Sonic game, so pretty much every element of gameplay felt new and exciting right off the bat. And with each character having their own individual style of gameplay, it felt like an embarrassment of riches. Let's go through each character and talk about what we've got here.
Sonic.
Sonic, the eponymous high-speed nudist hedgehog. Yes, I see you opted for shoes, sock, gloves, and no pants. We get it, you're extreme. Sonic's gameplay is run first, think later. Start at the beginning of the level and run to the end of the level. Simple and fun, just like the original games. How you enjoy the way Sonic controls is going to vary from person to person. I think if you're revisiting this game and played it when it was new, the controls probably won't bother you. This era of gaming was all about discovering how games work in the third dimension, so janky controls just come with the territory. And since this is before Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, and the like, our game choices were a little more limited to what we had in the house, so it wasn't uncommon to replay levels until those janky controls became muscle memory. When you understand the jank, you can control the jank. If you've never played this game before, you might find yourself frustrated with the controls. Years of Sonic games have finally brought us a Sonic that controls well in 3D with Sonic Frontiers, but Sonic Adventure controls more than got the job done at the time for a kid like me. The jank felt less like a problem and more like Sonic just being too fast for everything, even his own game. This game also started introducing some elements of Sonic's expanded moveset that we see carried over into future Sonic games, such as the Lightspeed Dash. Sonic also gets the best semi-scripted moments like the iconic whale chasing you across the wooden bridge and running down sides of buildings. All this to say, Sonic's gameplay style is my personal favorite. Brain off, feet on. It's the kind of gameplay design that is required for a Sonic game to feel like a Sonic game. And while this isn't the most polished gameplay, it was the blueprint for future games. It felt so new and exciting, the polish wasn't as necessary at the time.
Tails.
Miles, Tails, Prower. Miles, Prower. Miles per hour. That shit rocked me when the internet first let me know that wordplay was going on. I never realized it as a child. Young Tails is on a quest to prove himself that he can hold his own in the world and doesn't always need Sonic saving him. And he delivers all of his lines with the cadence of a younger brother drinking a few too many of the goodies under the sink.
Uh-oh, what's this? No! Hey, Knuckles, what's up? What are you doing, Knuckles?
Since Tails can fly, his gameplay style involves racing Sonic and sometimes other characters and winning by using flight to absolutely break the level design, which is pretty fun. It's a good time challenging yourself to see just how thoroughly you can break a level. But on the coolness scale, Tails isn't that high up there. We need a little more of that cool energy back in here. So we're gonna take a look at
Knuckles.
Oh shit. We're back in business, baby, because Knuckles is cooler than Miles Davis in cryotherapy, okay? Listen to this dude's theme song.
I'd rather flex my muscles, hard as nails. It ain't hard to tell. I break them down whether they solid or frail. Unlike the rest, I'm independent since my first breath. First test, feel the right, then the worst left. Won't be frightened now, stand up to all the pain and turmoil. Just believe in myself, won't rely on others.
Why is it knocking so hard? Come on, man, this is great. But let's not get distracted. We're talking gameplay here, and I think Knuckles has the most noteworthy style of gameplay outside of Sonic's. Back in the 2D days, Knuckles was just a slower Sonic who could glide and climb walls, but the level objective was always the same as Sonic's: get to the end of the level. Now that we're in the third dimension, Knuckles has his own gameplay style that I describe as a sort of scavenger hunt. Each level finds you hunting down 3 pieces of the shattered Master Emerald. A handy little radar system plays a sound that gets increasingly faster as you approach the piece, and this piece can be hidden in an enemy, a container, or just floating around in the open. Knuckles can still climb walls and glide, which is going to come in handy for those tricky emeralds hiding on rooftops or up high. Its gameplay is so solid that it made it into the sequel, which can't be said for every character's gameplay.
Amy.
They threw us a curveball with Amy's gameplay and gave us the closest thing to a Sonic horror game we'll probably ever get. Each Amy level features a section where you get relentlessly hunted down by an undefeatable robot a la Mr. X. Gain enough running momentum, and you can use your hammer to do a nice big jump that can help you in a pinch. Amy's story is short, but the gameplay style is refreshing. After playing as Tails and Knuckles, who can break levels with their mobility, it's actually nice to be restricted in terms of mobility to create a different gameplay flavor. It works well, but the good times are over, my friend, because it's time to talk about
Big.
Big the Cat was unavoidable. Like I said, back in the Y2K era, there was this weird thing going on with fishing games and Sega. There was a whole fishing rod controller, so the fact that Big's gameplay is all about fishing makes more sense than you think. That being said, as a kid I always found the fishing to be so jank that I just couldn't even get with it. I remember it being the hardest thing in the game. This time around it was the easiest. Each level took me like 2 minutes. You get plopped down in a level with a body of water, go fishing for your froggy friend. You could try to catch other fish too and beat your weight records for each level, but why would you do that? And to see the secret ending, you need to beat everyone's campaign. So just smoke through this section and have your palate cleansed with the arcade-pilled mech shooting experience that is the campaign of
E102.
Oh, you thought we were just doing cute little anthropomorphic animals.
Wrong.
We're doing full-blown AI learning about feelings and using his existential crisis to free his robotic brethren from their indentured servitude. We're doing the price of freedom, damn it. This isn't a game anymore. Speaking of which, the road to freedom is lined with robotic viscera and explosive arcade-type action. Hold down the button to see how many enemies you can get at once and watch your time bonus go up, baby. Arcadey type mechanics like this are a bit of a relic of the past, but it's why I love this campaign. There's just something so much fun about a simple concept and trying to top your score. Each level ends with a showdown between the other robots that were also indentured servants. That was fast. Okay, they're kind of easy, but who cares? We're playing as a mech, and in this era, in 1999, everything is right with the world if you are playing a game with a mech in it. Alright, how's everybody doing out there? I want to just take a quick break and thank you guys for joining me and talking about Sonic Adventure. It's such an important game to me. I love it so much, and I hope you guys love it too. If you've never played it before, I hope you like learning about it. I hope you like seeing all the cool stuff that's in here. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me. Please subscribe if you're digging the video. I do a lot of different stuff, and I like talking about video games and how they connect to certain elements of culture, like the extreme culture of 1999 and Sonic the Hedgehog. So if there's ever anything you want me to cover, please let me know in the comments below. Again, please like and subscribe if you're digging it, and even if you don't do that, thank you for checking out the video. I appreciate it. But let's get back to the adventure.
Sound.
If I were to describe the music of this game, it would be riffs. F***ing gnarly riffs, and this game's got it, okay? And for those that are not metalheads or music people, a riff is just a gnarly little guitar part that's not a solo. They can be fast or slow, but this is Sonic, baby, so you know we're hitting those speedy, thrashy riffs brought to us by the game's music director, Kenichi Tokoi, and iconic guitarist Jun Senoue, who has brought us countless shreddy Sonic riffs, and later went on to form Crush 40, whose vocalist sings on Sonic Adventure's opening ripper, Open Your Heart. This song is exactly the vibe I think of when I think of post-2D Sonic, and it is perfectly appropriate for the time period this game released in. Again, back in the late 90s, XTREME was the name of the game. Tony Hawk landed the 900, Napster turned the country into pirates, and the first episode of SpongeBob dropped in the middle of everyone's parents freaking out about the fact that all the 9s on the computer were about to turn to 0s and send the airplanes crashing through each individual home across the globe.
But, you know, if you've got a certain amount of money laying around, I have this cool little $1 million bill here that I keep in my pocket just in case there's any problems, you see, so I can walk into any bank and show them my little $1 million paper here, and they say, gee, you don't have to worry about this at all, do you? So, Joanne, I'm ready for it.
We were getting extreme about and Sonic's soundtrack was no exception. In the 2D Sonic days, we were treated to some of the funkiest bleeps and bloops on offer. These songs were absolutely exceptional. Chemical Plant Zone is a masterclass in funk, so much so that I swear Dirty Loops is referencing it in one of their songs. Really good, right? But it got me thinking. See, Jonah Nilsson being in this 8-bit big band collaboration means he's probably a dork. And you hear this little number right here? Yeah, you know that song. That's Chemical Plant Zone from Sonic the Hedgehog 2, right? Famous little melody there. Now listen to this song, World on Fire, by Dirty Loops from the album Phoenix. Don't you dare tell me that's not Chemical Plant Zone. I need to know. Somebody, if you know, please tell me in the comments. Okay? Okay? It's not a big deal to me. No, I need to know. But it is the 90s now, and we are riffing. And I think the songs from Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 have earned their place in history right next to the soundtracks of the classic games. There's a whole generation of gamers who identify with the Sonic Adventure soundtracks. They had echoes of the pop-punk movement that was just starting to heat up, so I think it was easy for a lot of us to connect with it. Edgy, angsty riffs with melodic vocals? Well, that's gonna line up perfectly with my obligatory 1999 Extreme snowboarding sequence. What's especially fun is that every character has their own theme song that's usually got vocals and everything and matches the vibe of the character. Sonic gets a nice mid-tempo ripper that's about, not worrying about stuff, I guess. Tails gets a cheery pop rock jam about flying high, very cute. Knuckles gets that f***ing knocker of a hip-hop track I was telling you about. Amy gets a poppy little funk number to match her bubbly energy. Big gets a country fried slide guitar ripper, and E102 gets an introspective but jazzy little number. Again, hats off to music director Kenichi Tokoi and Jun Senoue for bringing such an iconic sound to this series as it transitioned to 3D. He really ended up defining the 3D Sonic sound. I feel like a lot of people ended up really loving these soundtracks. Let me know if you love the soundtracks from these games in the comments below, and please subscribe if you're liking the videos so far. Okay, moving on to story. The main villain of this game is a sentient drop of the most refreshing sip of Sierra Mist named Chaos. This Frutiger Arrow freak just makes me think they wanted to make a bad guy like the one from Terminator 2. So this game is all about Eggman getting the Chaos Emeralds to soup up this big drip and destroy the city. There are also some hints of story beats from the Archie Sonic comics, which I have something to admit. I grew up reading the Archie Sonic comics, so I'm kind of an Archie Sonic comics guy. Wait, don't leave. This game only very lightly brushes up against the Ken Penders fever dream of the comics and the presentation of Chaos's origin among the Echidnas. This little story unfolds across each character's individual campaign and is really kind of neat. I feel like this was the first time I saw something like this in terms of narrative presentation, which feels surprising since it came from a Sonic game. Not that the narrative is deep or anything, I just think it's kind of neat how they split it up among the campaigns. Speaking of each character's individual campaigns, they all sort of intertwine in a cool way. Each character has their own individual goal, but these goals happen to bring them across the paths of the other characters and give you different perspectives on the events that unfold across all the campaigns. Why is Big just in this random cutscene that you play at the end of the game as Sonic? I guess you have to play with Big to find out. Sonic's goal is simple: stop Eggman and Chaos by running very, very fast. Tails' goal is to support Sonic and fly him around in his airplane. Knuckles is the guardian of the Chaos Emerald, but he's a terrible employee and he falls asleep on the job, causing a chain of events that shatters the Chaos Emerald into a bunch of pieces and causes Angel Island to fall into the ocean. So his goal is to get the Master Emerald back. Amy wants to reunite this little birdie with her parents. Big wants to reclaim his froggy friend who swallowed a Chaos Emerald. And E102 just wants to learn how to feel, god damn it. All in all, the story is, it's fine. It's a Sonic game, so, the story is not really that important. Go fast. You go fast, run fast, go fast, rat. That's the game. It's really neat to see how things intertwine, but aside from that, it's not like, oh, I better pay attention during the cutscenes. It's not like that at all. That leads us to the presentation, so let's talk about the graphics were the name of the game at the time. Any ad for a console was going to tell you about how amazing the games looked and everything like that. And at the time, as consoles were evolving up to the 6th console generation, things really did change pretty dramatically as you moved from console to consoles, but most specifically as you moved from the 2D era into the 3D era. And this wasn't Sega's first console that was capable of 3D, but it was its first 3D console, meant to be a cutting-edge 3D machine. And I think Sega's super arcadey look translates really well into everything the Dreamcast did. Sonic Adventure has this very particular design vibe that I can only describe as like Frutiger Arrow but extreme. Frutiger Arrow is a design style that kind of takes elements of nature usually and strips out all the dirtiness and makes it like super sleek and clean. Think, Windows XP backgrounds, things like that. So even going back to the way the menu looks and seeing all the motifs of sky and like these crystal blue waters and all the textures in the game, everything is super smooth and sleek. And at the time, these were really, very impressive graphics. But I think what really carries over now is less the graphics or the impressiveness of it or anything like that, but the design elements, the way the water looks in this game, the way the beach looks, the blues. Sega has that very signature blue that's just beautiful. We love it. All that being said, let's wrap this bad Larry up and talk about the impact that Sonic had on
The new millennium.
Post-1999, the new millennium continued on with the cultural love of all things extreme, and Sonic Adventure was granted a sequel. And how do you make something more extreme than the most extreme game of 1999? Well, you gotta out-extreme yourself with an even more extreme hedgehog. But that's a story for another time.
Farewell.
Sonic Adventure is regarded as a piece of video game history for a lot of reasons. Obviously, it's worthy of the title, having been the first proper 3D outing for Sega's legendary Needle Mouse, but its impact goes beyond just being a piece of history. We often get nostalgic for the experiences we had when we were young. We weren't always playing games with the conscious awareness that the controls are janky, or the mouth animations are weird, or the story is absolutely nanners. We get nostalgic for the way a game made us feel, not necessarily its fine details. For those of us who grew up with Sonic Adventure and had nostalgia for it, it's a game that just makes us feel good. The sun is shining, the waters are blue, and there's nothing but adventure ahead of us. Playing this game made you feel like you were cool and confident in the face of adversity, like Sonic and his pals. Its graphics and vibes take you back to the eternal summer of youth. A big reason it feels like this is because it was a vanguard to the hit-the-beach vibes of the early 2000s gaming scene. After Sonic and his Sunny sojourn on the beach, Mario followed suit, as well as Final Fantasy, and there's no doubt in my mind that Sonic Adventure's design philosophy subconsciously inspired things like the 90s laden pool designs found in modern liminal space horror games, and even something as broad as vaporwave aesthetics. Sonic helped us feel like it was okay to go maximalist if we wanted to. It doesn't matter if what we do is perfect or not. What matters is that we open our hearts to ourselves, be who we want to be. Even if others think we're corny or a bit janky, if we do our best to do what's best, to stand against what we know to be wrong, then we can run free under those sunny skies and clear blue waters once more.